In order to become who you were meant to become, it is important that you understand who you are now. And so I ask the question, what are you? A very important question for all of us to understand where we are going throughout life, but especially for our main characters as they venture through the ever after, something that they are faced with in this episode. But before I get into that, I will say spoiler warning for those who have not seen episode 4 of RWBY Volume 9. I won't be showing the episode or any clips from it in this video, simply images of the episode and analyzing the events that take place. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can go to Crunchyroll and support this amazing series there. Now, the episode starts off as they need to find a cat most curious, because he ran off in chase of a butterfly at the end of episode 3. Luckily for Team RWBY, though, the cat hasn't traveled far, as they see its butt poking out of the shrubbery, though its head appears behind them, and the cat doesn't seem to operate by normal physics and can split into parts, and it rejoins together, finally allowing RWBY to ask it if the cat can help them get to the tree. But this is when the cat says, "Oh no, you cannot go to the tree unless you are me, you see," which of course they don't understand at all, and the cat simply says that it's been there before, so why go see a sight that they've already seen? So although the cat has a particular way of speaking, essentially the cat is just saying, I've been there once, why go again? But this is when RWBY brings up that the cat helped Alex in the past, which piques the cat's curiosity. Well, Alex, how do you know her? And they reveal that Alex wrote a book about her adventures in the Ever After, which brings up many questions that the cat has. What did Alex say? How was the cat itself portrayed? And is that a mouse I smell? That, of course, being little, and Blake pipes up saying, you know, from one cat to another, can we have a moment? I see. So the mouse is already spoken for. In other words, Blake, being another cat, has already claimed the mouse as her own. But the cat gives them their space as they try to discuss how exactly they're going to move forward. Blake points out, being the most knowledgeable about Alex's fairy tale, that the cat was described as an ally, but one that had a hunger for information. Even if the cat doesn't want to go to the tree, it doesn't mean we can't lure it there with the information that they have, because they're from a completely different world, and they have a lot of knowledge about it, so they can easily get the cat on their side. So they draw the cat over again, as once again the cat was distracted by bugs, and they explain the situation, easily luring the cat in by showing it a shiny rectangle, their scroll. And as the cat starts playing with the scroll, seeing the pictures showing up, and that it's creating 2D images of itself, the cat's hooked now, and wants to know everything about Remnant. So they start on their journey, and the cat is asking an exasperating amount of questions, it seems. So, the old man and the boy now share a body? Well, that raises some uncomfortable implications. Who thought that that was a good idea? The same people that thought that putting a city in the sky was a good idea? Oh, and speaking of Atlas, was that girl who showed up at the Vital Festival tournament, Ciel? Did she ever show up again in a notable way? So many characters to keep track of, and this exchange that the cat has just proves that we are all the cat. All of us fans of the show, and especially the YouTubers, it seems, because Murder of Birds loves Ciel Soliel, and the only reason that they would bring up Ciel specifically is to poke fun at Arnold. So, I'm going to recommend that everyone, once Arnold's reaction goes live, go and watch his reaction, because I'm sure at this moment, he's going to lose his damn mind. Like, Ciel is someone that he was hoping was brought up in Volume 9. I'm pretty sure he thought that when he saw Alex on the beach, that the colors were kind of reminiscent of Ciel. Murder of Birds wants to see Ciel again, and the fact that she's brought up again, he's gonna love it. And because they did directly reference something for Murder of Birds, I'm slightly curious if the old man and the boy now sharing a body, well, that raises some uncomfortable implications. I made a crack theory a couple years ago at this point about, well, the implications of Ozpin and Oscar now sharing a body and the memories that Ozpin has. So maybe the uncomfortable implications are referencing that video directly? I'd like to hope, at least, but it's definitely certain that someone on the writing team is at least watching a number of YouTubers' videos. In fact, They might even be watching right now. But at the very least, the cat is asking some of the questions and pointing out a couple things that we've all talked about for quite some time now, as well as poking fun at some of the characters, being a bit uninspired, like the wise huntress, looking directly at Weiss. So, not the wise huntress, Weiss the huntress. So the cat seems to be just poking fun at a couple of them individually as well. But the cat also notes that Ruby knows a lot more about the origins of Remnant than Alex did. That Alex could hardly see past her own nose, always focusing on such trivial things. And then Blake asks, well, she learned her lesson in the end, right? And yes, the cat confirms that you could say that. So I'm definitely more interested to learn how exactly Alex's story ended, and although the cat was an ally at one point, is he going to continue to be an ally now, given what happens later in the episode? At the current moment, though, they reach the edge of their current acre. They see the bridge into the next one, which is the garden. And Yang is confused how anyone could even make sense of this world, that each acre seems like a puzzle piece that's fit together in this world and nothing really makes sense. And the cat asks if it's like that on Remnant, which it isn't. And the cat then describes how the Ever After is set up, that each acre is built for its inhabitants and the role that each of them fill. And those words kind of seem to imply that if their role is no longer needed, maybe an entire acre could be removed or the inhabitants changed. The acre morphed into something else to fit a different purpose. And again, that idea of purpose, a role that you need to fulfill, is at the center of this episode. At this very moment, though, their concern is that they are 6 inches tall, and they're asking, okay, how much longer until we can get back to normal size? And the cat says, oh, not much longer, we just need to get to the garden and you should be able to have a lovely grow-gurt parfait. So, similar to the original Alice in Wonderland story, it's food that's the solution to Alice's size, and in this case, Weiss, Blake, and Yang. But the cat points out that that's the least of their problems at this moment, and asks a couple more questions. Shouldn't you be more worried about that wicked witch you told me about? Salem, was it? How many more relics is it that she needs to end the world? And how do you even expect to be able to beat her without Atlas now that Atlas is a pile of rubble? And this causes Ruby to pause. And now, once again, the weight of everything that happened is starting to pressure her. But Yang snaps her out of it, saying, look, let's focus on the here and now, and we can worry about other things later. And also, the cat's gone again. Ruby wasn't paying attention, and Weiss mentions some other characters in the story. Why couldn't we have encountered someone else other than this cat? Mentioning specifically the lively carpenter and the rusted knight. One was sweet, and one was handsome. So the lively carpenter is likely the blacksmith, someone that we will also encounter later on in the story, and the rusted knight, who seems to be handsome. Well, if that is Jean, then maybe Weiss will finally see Jean as handsome? Maybe a drastic change from her thoughts about him in Volume 1. I really want to see Jean be the knight now, if only for this reason, but also for a number of other reasons and theories that I've already had, probably more that are going to come in the future, because this would create some very fun interactions. But we now know the lively carpenter and the rusted knight are next on the agenda for Team RWBY to encounter. Though there is at least one more encounter that will come first, as they start hearing some humming in the distance. And as they follow the noise, they find a pile of leaves. And out from behind the leaves comes the caterpillar, who also has wings like a butterfly, so it kind of seems to be in an in-between state between caterpillar and butterfly. Regardless, the question is then asked, what are you? A question which Ruby is very tired of hearing. And the creature then says, oh, what question is that? And Yang then asks them, what are you? And the creature then answers, I am a herbalist. Rather, the herbalist. It is the role that I will fulfill until I don't anymore. So it is a role that they have until they don't have. Same as everything else in that world, they're given a role until they don't have it anymore. So something is assigning these characters, these creatures, these beings, a purpose to fulfill in the Ever After. And if that purpose changes, what would be the cause? Or is there another being that dictates whether a person's purpose would change or not, and when that happens. Team Ruby then asks the herbalist, who I'll just refer to as Herb from now on because it's a lot easier, for some help. And they are invited into Herb's home, where they intend to make the Grogurt parfait for Team Ruby. But Herb is still a bit confused as to what exactly Team Ruby is. And Ruby says, a huntress. Okay, but what is it that a huntress does? Well, they fight monsters, I guess? Why is this important? And although they're becoming frustrated with Herb, Herb is becoming even more frustrated with them, because Herb doesn't understand why they don't understand why it's important, and asks again, do you know what a huntress does, or do you guess? At which point Blake speaks up, saying that huntresses are heroes who protect those who cannot protect themselves. And he lets a sigh of relief. Thank you. Now he asks, are you good huntresses? At which point Ruby pauses, the weight of the world pressuring her again. Yang speaks up, saying, look, does it matter? Can you help us or not? And that is what Herb is trying to do. And he goes on to say, we all have our titles, our roles to play, and in order to help you become whatever you need to become, you should really have a better understanding of what you are now. Very important words that all of Team Ruby will need to understand by the end of this volume. I think a couple of them understand by the end of this episode, but even in our own life, it is very important to understand who we are now, come to terms with where we've been, and have an idea of where we're headed. But I also kind of disagree with the idea that we need to know what we are going to become right out of the gate, because the future is uncertain. Although we may have plans and ideas and hopes, aspirations for the future, not everything works out. And we need to be open to change, be able to grow and learn and understand how to move forward with the information that we already possess. That is what is most important. But at this point in time, it's something that Team Ruby isn't exactly understanding just yet. And then Herb sighs and says, this is how a king becomes a prince, implying that the Red Prince from the last episode was the Red King. He's not just the son of the Red King, he somehow lost his purpose, lost his way forward, did not understand what it was he was meant to become or needed to become, and thus reverted to the prince. So, although Jinxie is now older, the Red King got younger. Things are working very interestingly in the Ever After, and I'm wondering if Team Ruby is going to have to put things right in some way, shape, or form, or if this is just the natural course that the Ever After takes. Also, at this point, I do want to bring up that the room they are in Herb's house is the chemistry room that we saw in the kind of previews for Volume 9, where we saw all the glowing globes, and, in particular, the separatory funnel that is used in chemistry experiments. And while this conversation is going on, Herb is also using a mortar and pestle to grind up leaves to make the medicine and remedies that would ideally be used to return Weiss, Blake, and Yang to normal. I feel like I need to mention this now because I don't think chemistry is going to be relevant at all to the future of this volume. Sadly, unfortunately. But, you know, at least I got to talk about it a little bit. And if you're interested in that video, I'll link it up above. But from here, Herb brings all of Team Ruby to, well, the hookah room, where there's a tube hanging from the ceiling and Herb just sucks a whole bunch of it down. It's, don't do drugs, kids. It doesn't work out well, and especially don't get lured into strangers' homes. Earlier in the episode, the cat specifically mentioned to Team Ruby, don't talk to anyone without me. And considering Herb, the creature that they are now encountering, is not a creature that they ever brought up as part of Alex's story, because there was the Red Prince, there was the Lively Carpenter, there's the Rusted Knight, there's the Curious Cat, there was the Hunter Mice, but they never mentioned Herb. So this is an unknown character that they're now interacting with, and they went inside his house and are now getting drugged. Stay away from strangers, kids. Stranger danger is a thing for a reason. And now Team RWBY are stuck in their own hallucinations. As Herb exhales and the smoke encompasses all of them, they are each confronted by a version of their younger selves, and confronted by the possibility of being something different than what they are now, of changing who they are, which each of them react in different ways to. All the while, Herb is saying you need to be sure of who you are and who you're going to be. And at first we see Yang, Blake, and Weiss each confronted by their past selves. Yang's younger self is telling her that she could go back to being who she was before, back to being whole again. And Blake's younger self is telling her that she could just be human, or she could just be a cat, to be a simpler version of herself, not take on the burden of being a bridge between human and faunus. And in Weiss's case, she could let go of the name of the Schnee family. She could just be normal and not have any of that weight put on her. So each of them has a different future dangled in front of them. Yang to be whole again, Blake to live a simpler life, and Weiss to be free of her name. But each of them are steadfast in the answers that they give. Yang says everything she's been through, the losses that she's experienced, have helped shape who she is now. That if she is missing something, it's not because she lost it, it is because she has not found it yet. And in Blake's case, she says a simple life isn't her, that her friends, her family, her culture are all a part of her, just as she is a part of them. Abandoning them for a simple life, it would not be simplicity, it would be betrayal. And Weiss says, let me tell you who I am. I am the granddaughter of a hero, the child of a villain, a citizen of a fallen kingdom, and an heir to nothing. She will not be defined by her name, as she will be the one to define it. She is Weiss Schnee. Each of these scenes was incredibly powerful, having all of our characters steadfast in the journeys that they have taken thus far, confident in who they are now. This was an incredibly powerful scene. Each of them, Blake, Weiss, and Yang, give their final answer that they are a huntress. And then there's RWBY, who's on her knees, defeated, alone, confused, and not knowing who she is or who she wants to be, who she's meant to be. And the younger version of herself is asking, so, are you a huntress? And RWBY's response is, well, life isn't like a fairy tale. She is not the character from those books she read when she was a kid. She is not the person that she always dreamed to be. And her younger self is putting that pressure on her, saying that everything relies on you. You need to continue fighting forever. Continue fighting the monster that took your mother away. These words about Summer Rose, about RWBY's mother, might be the most important to understanding RWBY's mentality at this point in time. Each of these images that our characters are seeing are conjured likely from their own subconscious, their own memories, and their own desires. And RWBY's mother is someone that RWBY herself has always kind of admired and chased after. It was Yang who raised her for most of her life, but Summer Rose has always been someone special to RWBY, someone that she's wanted to be like. And it might have been in Volume 7 when Salem told RWBY that her mother said those exact same words to her, and RWBY realized that Salem was the one who took her mother from her. That might have been the start of RWBY's downward spiral. That was the first point in time when we saw RWBY begin to break. She fell to the ground, started crying, and I think that may have been the first crack in her armor that led to the point we are at now, where she is broken and shattered, not knowing how to move forward. That first trigger in Volume 7, and then the Hound, seeing what Salem was doing with Silver-Eyed Warriors, the realization that Summer Rose gave Salem some new idea, and that may have happened to her mother. And then their failure at the end of Volume 8, everything is compounding on Ruby. The pressure is building, and she doesn't know what to do anymore. And when her younger self asks her, "So, what are you gonna be?" Ruby doesn't have an answer to give. And really, she's not given much of a chance to answer, as the curious cat then jumps in and breaks the illusion, shaking away the smoke. And the cat then turns to Herb and says, Herb is supposed to help people find their way. But instead, Herb has lost his own, and the cat offers to help him by sharing a part of his heart with Herb. And the same thing happens as what happened at the end of the last episode with the Red Prince. The cat puts its paw on Herb, and a portion of those sparkles goes into Herb's heart. And Herb comes to some realization, saying, "Ah, yes, I'm sorry, sometimes I get carried away. I have been described as a workaholic before." And then a hole opens up in the ground and Herb falls through it. And then it closes, and the cat's sitting there unfazed by it. Team Ruby, of course, is a little bit shocked. And this is where the episode ends. So I'm certainly left with the question, as I'm sure many other people are as well, did the curious cat just take out Herb? Did the cat kill Herb? Or did he send him somewhere else to be reevaluated and given a new purpose? Or something of that nature? What power does the cat have, and what role does the cat play in this overall world? If every creature has its purpose, then what's the cat's purpose? As the cat seems to be the one being able to go wherever it pleases. It can go to the tree, and it seems to be the only one who can do so freely. It can go to each of the different acres. It can interact with different beings, and it seems to be able to tell, in this case, Herb at least, that he's done, that he's lost his way, and send him somewhere else. Or just send him underneath the earth and just leave him there. One or the other, but this cat is probably the key to a lot in the Ever After. Also, it's drawn very differently than everything else in the show. As was mentioned by the writers, the cat in and of itself is animated differently. It doesn't have the hard outlines that all of the characters normally do have, so it is something separate and different, unique, even in this world of the Ever After. So the cat is the key to things moving forward. And we will just have to wait to see how things unfold. This episode, though, is probably my favorite thus far in Volume 9 because of, well, the interactions with the Curious Cat. They were fantastic. The reference, at the very least, to Murder of Birds with Ciel Soliel, and maybe other YouTubers with some of the other questions that the cat asked. If you see any other references, feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and especially with the very powerful statements that were given by Weiss, Blake, and Yang. How they are steadfast in who they are and where they are going. They are huntresses. They will be the ones to define themselves, and they are going to move forward as they are. They gave the answers that Herb was looking for. Quite frankly, Herb may have taken some drastic measures in this moment, but I think he actually was trying to help Team Ruby find their way. Have them confronted by their younger selves, being given this other option, knowing that there are other ways that they could proceed. But 3 of them at least gave that proper answer of who they are now. They are huntresses. It means different things for each of them, but they are steadfast in who they are. Unlike Ruby, she's given those other options and she doesn't know how to proceed. And this, of course, is causing stress and turmoil. And if this continued, I'm not exactly sure what would have happened. If Ruby gave a different answer, would she be changed at the core of her being? Or would she come to some new understanding of herself? I mean, these memories are still going to stick with her and she's still going to explore it later on, but the cat kind of came in and prevented that, and then punished Herb for his actions. To be fair, he did non-consensually drug all of Team Ruby, so yeah, he definitely took things a bit too far, but did he deserve to be dropped into a pit and possibly forgotten forever? Well, that's probably something else we'll have to see. But let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of this episode, and how we are seeing the growing world of Ever After, slowly learning more things about it, and especially, how did you like the convictions of Team Ruby? Those powerful scenes with Weiss, Blake, and Yang, and Ruby, at how lost she truly is, and hopefully that Blake, Weiss, and Yang will see that in Ruby, that they will be able to talk with each other and work things out. But now I'm also wondering, without Herb, how are they going to get their medicine to get back to normal size? I'd like if that happened sooner rather than later, but, you know, maybe the Lively Carpenter or something the Rusted Knight has will be able to help with that. Also, what's going to happen if Jean or Neo find Ruby while Weiss, Blake, and Yang are still small? That's going to lead to some interesting interactions as well. But again, we will have to wait and see. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. If you're a fan of No Game No Life, make sure to subscribe to my second channel, The Daily Flugel. And if you want to see some games played live, make sure to check out my Twitch channel. I stream every Tuesday and Saturday. In fact, I might even be live when you're watching this video, so feel free to drop by and say hi. But with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.